Hey y'all, this is Float On. This podcast is going to give you guidance and insight in seeing more beauty along the river ride that is life. You can't go back. You can only learn and move forward. I'm your host, Dalia Jean. Let's do this thing. So, hey guys, I am so excited to be here. This is my pilot episode. It's my very first one. This podcast has been something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I am just so excited to be here with you guys in this new year. Let's bring on 2021. Let's make it better. I think we've got the bar set at a reasonable level after surviving 2020. So I'm hoping we can get through this and just make it way better. So this pilot episode is going to be a little bit different. I want to kind of give you guys an overview of what we're going to be talking about in the podcast, so you can kind of get an idea of like, is this for me or not? Obviously, I'm going to have a variety of episodes that kind of hone in on specific focuses, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys an overview and just kind of a little sample of like what's going to happen in this podcast. So some of the topics that I want to touch base with you guys in this episode, and obviously I'm going to be diving deeper into a lot of stuff that has to do with these main topics, this kind of main themes. So the first topic that I'm going to touch base on is who I am and why I'm here. So that's the first one. The second one, why it's important to see life through the lens of a learner. For me, this is huge, and I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about it today. And then, like I said, there'll be an episode, coming soon, just kind of diving a little deeper into that. Growth mindset is another one that I'm going to talk about often. You'll hear me refer to the growth mindset and why it's important to practice it. And resilience is another topic we're going to kind of jump back and forth to throughout this journey here together in my podcast in general. Being resilient in life is so important. It's really just about having some quality coping skills with life and having that ability to learn and move forward, be better the next time around. And then the last one is just seeing life as a journey. It is a river ride, and I'm going to kind of give you a little insight into why I say that and why I feel that way. And yeah, so I'm just really excited to get started with you guys. And I'm so glad that you're all here. So I'm going to kind of go in order, and I'm just going to kind of talk about things a little bit. First one I want to do, just kind of get it over with, is who am I? So you're here listening to this podcast. I'm sure you're wondering, who the heck am I? My name is Dalia Jean, and I'm an artist. I'm a maker. I'm an author, an illustrator. I'm a mom. I'm a teacher. I'm starting a podcast. I'm also pursuing my master's degree. I'm a homeowner, a DIY warrior. I'm obsessed with building things, and I'm constantly visualizing things in my house. And my partner Doug's always wondering what I'm up to, staring into the corner of a room. He's like, "What's going on? What are you thinking about?" So I love to be outside in nature, and I don't know. I just feel like I find a lot of joy in my life, and I've always been that person that people, come to for advice. And I value my position in that way. I appreciate that people come to me. It means a lot to me too. And so that's just kind of the person that I am. So I'm going to kind of start from the beginning and give you guys a little insight and kind of just take you on my journey of, who I am and how I got here, how the heck I ended up making a podcast. So it started out with me growing up. I spent a ton of time with my grandparents. My mom was a single mom working hard. She had a government job working for the Ohio Turnpike. She worked all kinds of shifts and different times of day and stuff. And her parents, my maternal grandparents, were a large part of my childhood. And my grandfather in particular was really invested in dedicating time to me, just teaching me stuff. I'm going to talk more about him in an episode coming very soon. But in essence, he played a huge integral role in who I am today and taught me so many things. Some of the important things he taught me really was just that you can learn something from everyone. He would talk to whoever, like anyone he met at a restaurant or he was out somewhere or wherever. And it was just a constant thing where we'd always have to like hang out and wait for Gramp while he, chatted it up with someone he didn't even know. But he would always tell me later, like, point out what he learned from that person or something. He would always read the newspaper too, front to back every day. And he would tell me this was the poor man's university. And I'm going to kind of go deep into this in another episode, like I said, but he really did take life as a learning experience and was always trying to learn stuff and then teach me too. He had that like mentality where he could learn anything. So I kind of embodied that from him. As a young child, he would constantly teach me things. And I remember just sitting with him and people watching, and he would point out things that I could learn from just doing that. And so I, as a young child, started learning things on my own. Like I taught myself how to draw by just like sitting and copying comics as accurately I could out of the newspaper to teach myself how to draw. And I taught myself how to play the piano. Like my mom and my grandparents, somebody got me some books, and I would just sit there and like learn how to read music and, just really anything. I remember too, like I think my mom got me a typewriter, like a Brother it was a word processor. That's what it was called. And I remember sitting and like wanting to type better. Basically anything that I came across as a child that I wasn't good at, I would find approachable ways to improve and get better. So I was always teaching myself stuff, and it's always just been sort of my coping mechanism. Not that I wanted to like know everything about everything, but I just knew as a young child that if I could gain a better understanding on a topic that I didn't understand, that I would feel better about it. And I've continued that mentality throughout my life. And, now I'm in my 30s and here I am. So, just whatever. It's all about just like how you view life. And I think for a lot of friends and family who come to me for stuff, they kind of knew that I was always that kind of person. So, it's not something that's like, oh, well, if I'm not that kind of person, it's too late to start. Like, that's not true at all. And, it's all about understanding the mindset of someone who is a habitual learner. So that's why I figured it'd be fun to kind of just get on here and share some things with you guys. I have so many little tips and tricks and like approaches to life and lessons to learn and just so many things that I want to share with you guys. So, when it came to me growing up, I did spend a lot of time out in nature, just kind of reflecting on life and learning to understand and understanding to learn. I think it's kind of a cycle. And I always naturally gravitated towards teaching others things and like helping others. I don't know. It's one of those things where I feel like it was an innate part of my personality and who I am. And I didn't realize that I was this way until I had my son. And something clicked for me in my mind that I knew I wanted him to have awesome teachers like I had. Like I had so many awesome teachers. And I'm going to, again, like that's another episode that I'm going to talk about just like what do you gain from people who teach you stuff, like how do you really value that? But I knew immediately that I was like, you know what, I need to be a teacher because I would want my son to have awesome teachers, and I need to be that person for other people's children. So I ended up becoming a teacher. I got my bachelor's in art education, K through 12, and I really have settled into the high school level. I would say that's probably my favorite. I've had some experience doing all the grade levels, but high school is my sweet spot. I love it very much, and it's truly where I think I belong right now in this journey in my life. So I am an art teacher, and it's just so much fun. I'm such a creative person, and like being able to share that stuff with my kids at work is just like the best thing ever. Like there are a lot of days, I'll be honest, where I leave work and I'm like, dang, I can't believe I get paid for this. Like granted, teachers, we don't teach for the money. It's not like I'm, super rich or anything, but it's definitely fulfilling. And, I've got enough friends who maybe make more money than me, but absolutely hate sitting in their little cube or whatever they're doing. And so, there's a trade-off, And I think it's important to realize that and, figure out where it is that you actually belong. So I'm a teacher, but I also have, the drive to do personal things. Like I'm an artist and a self-published author and illustrator. I just published my first book this year. It's called Be Still, Love Nature. It's a children's book, but you could, it's almost like a gift book, like a gift picture book. You could give it to anyone. And it really touches the heart, really pulls on the heartstrings and gets you, inspired to appreciate nature and nurture a more fully formed relationship with nature, because we all should have that. And again, I'll be talking about that in another episode also. But yeah, and I'm pursuing my master's degree. So along this journey of just being a mom and, growing through my life, figuring out who the heck I am and, inspiring others along the way has really just brought me to this point where I'm ready to just like step out of my comfort zone a little and just share with you guys my perspective on life and bring some light to things. I also want to do a guest series. So I've got to figure out how I want to interject my guest episodes. I do plan on having like seasons and things and like kind of organizing episodes into like things where you can kind of build on skills or build on insights or whatever. So I'm kind of just going to flow through this, these first number of episodes the best way I can and kind of find my way. But hopefully you guys will stay with me on this journey. And, it's a passion project of mine. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. And I just really want to kind of share my little secrets and, things kind of help you guys through life in little ways and inspire you to see more beauty in life. That's the biggest part for me. And that's really my goal too. So, but, learning life lessons and I don't know, there's just so much to it. And I think being able to just digest it all and kind of reflect is healthy. And that's what I want this to be for you. Like that time for you to just sit back or do whatever you're doing and, kind of ponder on life a little bit. Let's look at it in a better way. Let's remix some stuff and, turn stuff around. So the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is the importance of learning. This is something that's going to be an overarching theme here at Float On. And, I always say you got to look at life through the lens of a learner. And what that really means is just, pretend you've got like your learner glasses, like same thing like a thinking cap. When people say like, oh, put your thinking cap on, like, put your learner lenses on and see things in that way instead of, woe is me and getting down on things. Let's look at life as a learner and figure out what it is that we can learn. Now, trust me, I know that there's merit in grieving and sometimes you just need a minute to like cry it out. And that's great. Sometimes that's important and that's your process. But ultimately, it's so important to just figure out what it is that you've learned from something, and being self-reflective is probably the most important thing that I can say I do as a person. Like when I really think about it, being reflective is probably right near the top of my like skills, in life. So it's so important. Some things that learning does for you, and I'm just going to kind of go over these really quick just to kind of get you guys thinking about it, plant the seeds. Learning gives you control. So if you're a learner and you've got a situation and you're reflecting on it, you're not relying on others for solutions or improvement. You're really kind of thinking about what it is that I can pull out of this. And that's a good thing to have, that's really valuable. Learning gives you goals. It promotes true happiness. You're going to find more joy in your own life if you can set little goals for yourself. And one of the earlier episodes that I'm going to do, I actually think it might be my next one, is just talking about goals and resolutions and like what that really means, because this is a new year and I kind of want to start you guys off on a solid foot. So we'll talk more about it, but really goals, they can give you a level of inner joy that you can't get from other people, because you're going to achieve things, and those things, those goals, those should be your goals. What do you want to do to become a better person? Or, do you want to enrich your life somehow? Do you want to set aside time for, reading or whatever it is that you want to do that you feel like you don't have time to do? Learning is going to give you that level of joy that no one else can give you, because it's like your thing, it's like your precious thing, and it should be something that you do for you and not anyone else. So that's crucial. Learning is going to help things go better the next time around. So for example, if you're in a tough situation, or maybe, you go through a bad breakup, that's a good example. How are you going to approach it better the next time? What are you going to change? And I hate to say this, guys. I know everyone's like, oh my gosh, breakups can be one-sided. It could be this person or that person. You're right. But in other sense, you're sort of wrong. Like, the way I see it, even if it's the worst breakup of all, we all know the truth about whoever, your partner. Like, we can all kind of see what's going on. Let's say they end up cheating on you and you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Think about it though. Look at like the little signs or those tiny, tiny moments when you felt doubt, or you felt your intuition kind of signaling to you like, ooh, I don't know, red flag maybe. So as much as you had no idea, you didn't see it coming, there were little clues that you just chose to ignore. You chose to overlook because you love that person maybe, or, you just didn't want to cause any waves or whatever. Learning is going to help you reflect actively throughout your life and create a space for you to deal with things in real time, because you're constantly reflecting and learning from that, deciding, should I act on this? Should I not? Should I think about it a little more? How do I want to do this? How did I do it last time? What can I do better? Learning is going to keep you humble. So it's going to keep you in check. If you're always aware of the fact that you can learn from other people, or you can learn from other things, and that you don't know everything or everyone or whatever, it's going to keep you at that level where you're like, yeah, dude, I don't know everything. And that's important. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. There's no way one person can know everything about everything. That's just not a thing. And I think once you kind of move yourself into a space where you actually approach life with that mentality that you can learn from others, you're going to treat people with more respect. You're going to value people more. You're going to communicate that value more to other people. And they're going to give you more in return. It's going to be just this positive, like, snowball that starts happening. So, keep your learner lenses on, stay humble, be relatable, be approachable. It's going to be so much better in the end. I think that learning and teaching go hand in hand. If you're a good learner and you understand how to learn, the learning process, and we'll even talk about like neuroplasticity. This is something I've been learning about in my master's degree, because I'm kind of doing an education related topic, master's focus. But if you understand the learning process truly, you're going to be a better teacher too. And some of you are probably like, well, I don't care. I'm not a teacher. Like, I don't need to be a teacher. Well, don't you have like friends and family and, maybe kids that you in some ways want to be an influence on and leave your mark with these people that you care about? Well, that's, in some places you could sort of teach them things, and, it should be a give and take. You should be teaching and learning from the people around you. And the last thing about learning is just, like, being old and wise is pretty much goals. I don't know. I just think that if I'm going to be old, we're all going to get there, I want to be wise. I want to have knowledge in a variety of things, like my grandparents, especially my grandpa. Like, you could pretty much ask him about anything and he would have like a little bit of knowledge about that thing, and he could at least point me in the right direction. And I hold so much value to that. I just think that's such a remarkable thing to have as a human, is to truly have an idea of what's going on in all areas. And I just think that there's no end to what you can learn. Our brains are so powerful. They are so capable of learning. There's no end to it. Your brain will never get full. It'll never be too much. You just have to keep building and building and learning in small bits, learning in ways that's comfortable for you. And it's going to be a great process if you can get there. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is growth mindset. And this is also going to be a big theme for the podcast. And I'm not going to go too deep into growth mindset right now, just because I am going to do some episodes and kind of break it down. But if you're not familiar with the term or like what it really is, just know that growth mindset is sort of a place where you're going to keep your brain and your mind and your approach to life. And it starts with really, really small things like your self-talk, your self-dialogue that you have. Don't tell yourself you can't do something. Tell yourself that you can and you will. And I know some of you are like, oh, cool. Yeah, just switch it around. It's that easy. But you would be surprised how if you just prevent yourself from saying I can't and instead say I can and I will, maybe eventually, like you're leaving a door of opportunity open in your mind of possibilities. Whereas if you say you can't, that's it. You've shut the door. So we're going to talk about growth mindset on this podcast, and I'm going to give you some really cool, approachable ways to kind of switch your mind and work it out and just kind of get yourself thinking in that direction. Who do you want to be for the people in your life? Do you want to be a positive person, a source of positive energy or your growth, or do you want to be sort of a dead end? Do you want to just be that person who always has the problems and always has stuff going on and like doesn't really have much to offer? And I know some of you are probably like, well, we're all busy, I work and this and that. I totally get it. But this is not even about like making big changes in your life. It's like the tiny things. We're going to really kind of talk about that throughout this podcast. Energy and vibes are so real. And just know that the good energy and vibes are just as powerful as the bad ones. So like if you walk into a room and you just like meet this new person, they're like, oh my gosh, bad vibes, like energy, like, please, where's the exit sign? Where is it? That is powerful. And I want you to know that your good vibes are just as strong. It's kind of like working out a muscle or learning to play an instrument or mastering a new skill, pretty much anything. Like think about your job, in your first day, did you know everything about your job, every little detail? No, you had to kind of grow at it, right? You had to work at it. And, now you might have more experience, more years there. And you're like, oh, I know everything. If somebody walked into my job on the first day, they wouldn't survive until lunch. You're probably right? There's a lot of little things that you've learned and mastered. And those skills have been gained over practice and time. And that's the same exact thing as growth mindset. It's just all happening in your head, There's little things you can do outside of your head to kind of push and support your growth mindset change. But we're going to talk all about that in this podcast. Resilience is another one. So that's going to be another theme for you. Being adaptable. Being able to heal in the face of tragedy and trauma, even just stress or change. Like change can be super stressful for people. So, being resilient and having a way to get through these difficult times in our lives is key. You can't have too much resilience. Learning how to get through things and become stronger, coming out the other end. It's going to be so, so important. How you get through those things is what matters. It's not like, yes, the hard times happen. Yes, the bad times come. That's not going to change. You can't control life. You just can't. So we're going to kind of really explore some little things you can do, some coping mechanisms. And I think that you guys are going to really get a lot of joy out of the resilient focused episodes for this podcast. The reality is that resilient individuals don't necessarily experience less anxiety or grief. I know a lot of my good friends or family will be like, I don't know how you do it. How do you get through? How do you do this? How do you do that? Like, how do you just achieve constantly? Like, when do you sleep? I get all of these comments, and it's like, while it's funny, it's also like, trust me, I stress. I have my hard days too, but I refuse to let it get me down. I refuse to dwell on things to the point where I'm miserable or hurting continuously, like I said, you've got to have a spectrum of emotions to experience. You can't not allow yourself to feel stress. You can't not allow yourself to be sad if you need to be sad or grieve or whatever. But you can't stay there. You got to keep moving. And so finding that journey out of that dark hole, to figure out what's going on and how can I be better? What can I learn from this? And how can I make sure this doesn't happen again? Or if it does have to happen again, and maybe I can't tell the future, so how am I going to survive? Those healthy coping mechanisms are just they're so important. I can't stress it enough. So being resilient is such a life skill. And we're going to really talk about that here in this podcast. And the last thing I want to talk about really is just seeing life as a journey. That's where the name of this podcast came from, Float On. It's about seeing life as sort of a river ride. I'm personally, I love kayaking. It's one of my favorite things, just getting out in nature and floating down a river. It's like one of the best feelings. You get to just sit and paddle here, paddle there, but just to hang out and like look at the beauty along the way, see different flowers, encounter different animals, and just kind of being sort of a product of the river. It's guiding you downriver, and you've got to sort of just embrace that, especially if it's a stronger current. You're not going upstream. You got to just keep moving forward. It's kind of like time. Time passes all the time. It's one of the only things we can truly count on is that time's passage will occur continuously. And as we age, people always say like, oh, time just seems to be going faster. It is going faster because if you think of a year in terms of your life, whatever age you are, 1 year is 1 unit fraction of that, your life. So if you're 3, 1 year is a third of your life. But if you're 36, like I am, 1 year is 1/36 of my life. So the perception that time goes faster and faster is accurate. This is not just in your head, guys. But if you can embrace that concept and start viewing life as a journey and sort of just embodying this view that we're always going to be moving forward. The hard times are going to pass. The good times are going to pass. So you have to be present. You have to enjoy them. You have to let yourself grieve. You have to let yourself be sad. You have to experience these emotions. Don't let them pass by and just check out because they're going to come back to haunt you. Learn from it. Learn from life. Know that you're going to be moving forward and you're going to need to gain skills. Think of life's experiences as experience, like you're kind of on a job. Like you've got to gain life experience to get through it. If you're not reflecting and learning from the stuff that has already happened to you, and you're letting the same stuff happen to you again and again like a cycle, you've got to start reflecting and seeing life as a journey. It's so important, guys. So in the grand scheme of things, I want to take you on this river ride. I want you to come along with me as we dive into these ideals about life and how to get through. It's kind of like, and I'm not a super religious person, but I know a lot of you are aware of the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That is so key. You have to know the difference. Some of it is acceptance. Some of it is learning and not being afraid of change, Before I let you guys go, I hope you guys enjoyed. I just want to relay a heartfelt thank you through the sound waves from my soul to yours. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you enjoyed this first ever podcast of mine. I'm going to be back with more goodness for you guys. If you loved what you've heard, please leave me a review and share this episode with someone that you feel may benefit. For more information and inspiration, you can head over to floatonpodcast.com to add my podcast on different social media outlets and see updates. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.